Okay, and I believe we are streaming live to YouTube. I'm Max Citrai, VP of Quality, and this is the group conversation for the Quality Department on June 7th, calendar year 2021. As always, we provide you with a video summary and the slides beforehand. We hope that you managed to catch some of that. And then if people have questions, we will dive right in. Also, a reminder that this is a public group conversation, so please refrain from localizing any of our confidential or customer names on call. Thank you. I believe, Sid, you have the first question. Would you like to vocalize it for us?
Yeah, thanks, Mac. I didn't see any questions on the agenda, so I thought I asked something out of curiosity. What's the simplest way to reduce kind of compute that we need for CI? And it's not just the compute, it's also even testing our own code is causing quite a load on GitLab.com. It's, I think, more than 10%. So I was wondering, is there a way to reduce that? I think in the future, GitLab will have features where we use statistics to kind of run the tests that are most likely to fail first. And in an ideal world, I'd suggest something like, hey, run it, figure out which tests fail the fewest and just not run those as long as something is not on the merge train. But maybe there's something even simpler possible. For example, maybe we have a test matrix. Maybe we don't do the test matrix if it's not on the merge train. If it's just a feature branch that no one's planning to merge yet, just not run the test matrix. It's an example. I'm fishing for like, what is the smallest thing we can do to make some progress towards that vision of using like Bayesian statistics to run the relevant tests.
Thanks for that question. So this is pretty strategic, and I'm happy we were talking about it. I don't know off the top of my head what's the smallest iteration yet. We have to noodle forward. I do suspect that the cost of setting up the tests, like the test data, and also the actions of the tests, those may trigger different costs, either CPU or RAM, we don't know yet. With the setup of tests, we lean on testing from a user standpoint, so that may be like a bigger unoptimized workflow. I think running less tests is probably the smallest iteration that we can do right now. I see Kyle's on the call as well. You know, the EP team has been experimenting continuously here. Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, it starts with running less tests. I think we've been looking towards using dynamic analysis to determine the tests that are more applicable to a change. And then, as you said, look towards running the full test suite when a pipeline is a merge train or like kicked off by a maintainer, as an example.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I think we've been looking forward to that for over half a year, at least. In my mind, 2 years. So I'm discounting a bit. But is there something simpler that we can do faster?
Kyle, do we run all the tests in nightlies? And is there can nightlies be or master be the supplement, and we can reduce the test in the MRs?
Yeah, we run the full test suite in nightly. We would need to look at like the risk of changing tests that we run in MRs a little bit. There's definitely potential to look further. I'd have to give the team a little bit more for some specifics to be completely honest here.
And Sid, for color, the EP team is the DRI team to own this. With Jihu and with other things, the team has been stretched thin. So Kyle has been doing more of a focus, and we reduced the focus this quarter to on the stability and efficiency of the pipelines. We can provide a deeper update here in the next time we discuss probably the key review. But I'll take an action item here. When is the are you looking for a timeline, Sid? Or are you looking for a more actionable proposal with a commitment to execute from the line?
I'm not looking for a timeline. This is not an assignment. There's still no questions here, so I'll elaborate a little bit. I think the nightlies, I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying, hey, just run the entire test set every night. I think there's an iteration before that. We say we run the entire test site on our main branch, always. But we have a difference between testing a feature branch and the main branch. We know if it goes on the merge train, that is the point where it might go into the main branch. So I think this nightly talk is a bigger step. So I propose I'm trying to find a smaller step. I'm trying to help with our iteration value. We've been talking about this for a long time, but haven't made progress. So my brain is spinning. Is there something smaller? I think on a feature branch, run a limited test set of tests, but always run all the tests on the merge train. I think that has very few downsides, and it might be something we can get to earlier than the nightly thing, which I think requires a higher quality of like, what tests are you running, data that we don't have at the moment. So hence my suggestion. And then I was just thinking, okay, if you're going to get rid of half the test, how would you do that? I was like, oh, if we have a test matrix, we can simplify that. I'm looking at our GitLab CI.YAML, we don't have a test matrix, but maybe there's some duplication where we're testing with 2 versions of Rails or 2 versions of the database or 2 versions of RSpec or something like that. But I linked our CI.YAML. I'm not seeing it right now.
Okay. Thank you, Sid. My apologies. When I said nightlies, I meant the master recurring run. So you're correct there on terminology. I think we can, a first iteration is to look at how many tests we're running on a feature branch and see how the ratio there and reduce that immediately. And then and start on moving towards that iteration that we discussed. I don't believe we have an issue yet. Kyle, do you have any existing issue? If not, we can create one to capture this new iteration, new approach.
Yeah, I like Sid's idea with a smaller iteration of what we've been tackling. Let's start with a new issue and get with the team on that.
Okay.
I'll link it in the agenda creator right now.
Thanks, Kyle. And I see Stan in the comments. Stan, any you want to verbalize to give some context?
Sure. I mean, I linked the place where we show the slowest test, and if you can see, the top 3 are all related to search. So I'm wondering if there are cases when we can just exclude those to start, and that would already cut down a lot of time that we may not need.
Awesome. So it would be like, hey, don't run the search test unless you see the search files changed.
That's right.
Awesome. That seems like something you can implement in an hour by just changing a few rules in the GitLab CI.YAML file. Is that naive? Well, that's a yes/no question. How hard would that be to not run those specific tests? Just hard code that.
I don't think it'd be hard. We do things like we tag tests, certain groups of tests with like Geo, for example. So we don't run Geo unless we specifically want to. So if we want to exclude certain groups, we could say, hey, these are slow specs. Don't run them unless, you know, they match certain rules.
Okay. Do we know in the GitLab CI.YAML file evaluation, can we say like which files were changed? Is that available at that time?
Yeah. So we already kind of break up pipeline types based on files change. So we run like front end jobs and only front end files are changed as an example.
So maybe the smallest thing is like, if this not the merge train and these files were not changed, don't run this one slow spec. Maybe that's the smallest possible thing.
Yeah. If anyone from like pipeline authoring, I'm not sure that there's logic in like the CI config out of the box to know, is this a merge train pipeline and trigger rules based on that? That's the thing that we'd need to look into and build some custom tooling. But where you're talking is directionally. Yeah, exactly. And that could, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Kyle. Please finish.
I was just going to say that that functionality, I was going to say, I think would benefit a lot of people. Could give them a really good pattern to use.
Awesome. Yeah, there should be a chook CI variable where you know you're on the train or not. CI variable, environmental variable, I meant to say.
Can we have an issue to track that too, Kyle? At least get it in the product branch and feedback if we have that, and we can dog food that as well.
Yep, the CI, yeah, I'm sure there's one for the CI variable if that functionality isn't already there. That's the thing where I'm not sure if it's possible or not, but I bet there's at least an issue for CI variables.
Okay. Sid, so just the brief action items. I think the first iteration would be to optimize that search test immediately. And then we'll look at the merge trains versus feature branch and how we can optimize that as the follow-up iteration. And we can go from there. We can provide you follow-ups when we complete that. Does that sound okay?
No need for follow-ups. No need to do any of this. I'm just trying to our iteration value is the toughest value. So when I see something that hasn't moved for a while, I'm like, okay, can we make this smaller? Can we make this smaller? So I'm just giving suggestions. There's no need to actually do this. And I really appreciate the conversation. I want to buy everyone else a little bit of time to read the presentation and to put something in the doc. So I hope there's a second question today.
Thank you, Sid. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks as well. This is always great to help me learn the iteration value a little bit better as a personal connection.
And it looks like we still don't have a second question yet.
I think in this case, I'll just voice my one and I'll take it in a second. I know your team has been doing quite a lot of work in terms of increasing contributor productivity. Could you perhaps give us a quick overview of what's been happening recently?
Yeah, I can speak for Kyle's team here. Kyle, feel free to chime in if I get it wrong. We've automated a better ways to identify contributors, real-time nudging. I believe we use the try serverless in the configure group for that. We are looking to set up CI for contributions for forks. That's still an ongoing proposal. And a lot of efforts lastly has been put towards Jihu, which I think that is now slide 12. So Kyle's team has been laid the groundwork on how the contribution and the code sync conflict resolution automated process will work. And that has a lot of efforts going into, we automated first, so everything is efficient from the get-go. Kyle, feel free to step on my toes and chime in if I got anything wrong there.
No, you covered everything pretty well. Definitely also looking a little bit more at customer merge requests with Mirar as well, with Jihu. But leaning more into real-time nudging. So a lot of the automation we had probably for the last year had been scheduled nightly or weekly automation, and we're trying to figure out what are things that we can nudge and bring attention to as actions happen using triage serverless. So when a community contribution MR is opened, if it has a docs change, one of the things we've been doing is try to bring a specific docs reviewer into that MR immediately. And we're just looking to see how we can kind of connect the DRI to the community contributions earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. I believe we don't have any more questions. I do want to point out a highlight on slide 11, which is a learning from multiple key reviews. We are moving to measure age of open things with bugs and merge requests, and we're making a big shift towards that with within the leaders of engineering giving support to that, and that has spoken well. We're also working on a blog post on that as well. And another highlight is we have really great contributions from the Jihu team, as in slide 50, and there's now both Ali Cloud and Tencent Cloud support in our GitLab environment toolkit with their contribution as well. We look forward to more contributions from them. So we don't have any more questions. I believe we are 15 minutes in. I'll be happy to give you 15 minutes back. Please feel free to catch a recording and ask questions async. There's also a R&D retrospective coming up, so I want to point awareness to that. And then I will see you in another 2 months. Thank you everyone for joining.